It is no secret that TUGS is no stranger to cut content. In fact, its best friend may as well just be that. From characters to stories, TUGS definitely has a lot of cut content from under its belt. Quite possibly TUGS' most famous form of cut content was its deleted scenes. Almost every episode has evidence for content that was filmed that were either deleted, shortened, or were cut for time. So today on yet another analytical video on SonicWalle, I'm going to cut the couple of garbage today and finally deep dive into the world of TUGS deleted scenes. Before we begin, I would like to state a few things before we start. First, I do know for a fact there has been videos on TUGS deleted scenes before, but these just show the deleted scenes, not actually explaining them. So today we'll finally change that. Second, this video is heavily inspired by the unlucky TUGS' Thomas deleted scene video, namely in terms of structure, so credit goes to him for the inspiration. And finally, I have a few rules instated. Number 1, these must have been intended for the final cuts of the episodes, so if it was filmed or has been confirmed to be filmed, it will be included. So unfortunately, the scene of Snatcher and Ghost, which is quite a popular one to fans, will not be included due to the fact we don't actually know if it was truly filmed or not. Even despite the fact that prop for it actually exists, that doesn't mean it was actually filmed. Number 2, no 15-minute cut exclusive footage unless it's a footage of a deleted scene. So unfortunately, this cool shot of Sunshine from, well, Sunshine, which was present only in the 15-minute cut, will not be featured. Number 3, deleted scenes with very little info on them will only be acknowledged if they are interesting enough. In other words, not every deleted scene will be explained in detail here, so basically episodes such as Trapped will be a little bit glossed over, as the only info on their full 20-minute cuts are their shooting schedule and also a handful of pictures. And number 4, most importantly, this video has some speculation in it. Do not take this video too seriously or as fact at times. But with that all being said, let's go! Sunshine. Despite the 20-minute cut of the episode being fully released to the public, Sunshine has a handful of scenes that never made it to either cut of the episode. The episode begins with a montage showcasing and introducing the working busy port of Big City, showcasing the various members of the Star Tugs, such as OJ, Warrior, Big Mac, Top Hat, Tencents, and Hercules. Various bits of stock footage show Wise is used here, leading to a fade into the Star briefing. However, it seems that they filmed a very different introduction for the episode as a whole. In the TUGS promotional sizzle reel, it showcases an impressive panning night shot, showcasing various TUGS stationed across the port as the camera slowly pulls along, showing more of the various vessels stationed around the harbour. It then catches up to Tencent, who is towing in a barge before he passes by the camera, and then the scene fades into the next morning, showing Davy Jones and Lily Lightship passing by Zoran and Zack, before slowly unveiling the Star Tugs one by one in their briefing.
TUGS is the story of the daily working life of two tugboat companies, told through the adventures of Captain Star's proud fleet of 7 tugs and their rivals.
What the scene is believed to be the original planned opening for Sunshine, with footage specially shot for it rather than a montage of stock footage seen in the final episode. Funnily enough, this brief few second clip of Top Hat from this scene was repurposed in the final opening. After the briefing with Captain Star, we then cut to the famous scene introducing the Z-Stacks, which showcases the anger and frustration Captain Zero has about not getting the Duchess contract, as the other Z-Stacks all agree to figure out how to take down the Stars. But how did Captain Zero find out? Well, this deleted scene explains why. After the Star briefing was a deleted scene intended to show that Zack and Zoran were spying on the Star Tugs. Zack wonders what Captain Zero would feel about the Stars getting the Duchess contract, with Zoran bluntly admitting he wouldn't like it. My guess is why this scene was scrapped was simply just for time. It would have been easier having all the Zeros react at once about the contract, rather than just 2 of them and then all of them in the next scene. Next up is a scene where Sunshine crashes into the Duchess, where Zoran pushes the poor switcher into the ocean liner.
Sunshine went into the rudder of the big liner.
In the final episode, a close-up shot is used of Zoran bumping Sunshine. However, if you pay close attention and know your prop history with the TUGS, Sunshine is actually using his Star Tugger Marine colours. The big giveaway is that his floorboard is being coated in bright red, while in his upriver livery, he should have her in dark red at this point. In the promotional sizzle reel, we get to see this was not actually what they originally filmed. As seen here, we get a much more interesting shot of Zorin roaming into Sunshine out in the open. Look, there's even Izzy Gomez in the background. If I had to guess why this was cut, was because of how awkward it looks. When Sunshine gets bumped by Zorin in this shot, he barely moves quickly, and the way he awkwardly looks away while smiling just doesn't seem to feel right. As boring as the final shot is, it was definitely a good choice to scrap the original version and make this new pickup shot that gets to the point more quickly. Near the climax of the episode, Tencent wonders if he should go find Sunshine. He talks to Top Hat and OJ about it, and after being somewhat encouraged by the paddler himself, he sets off to find the little switcher. A picture released by the TUGS Project showcases an extended portion of the scene that was cut, showcasing that at one point, Big Mac would have woken up from his sleep, and likely would have silenced the noise that Top Hat and OJ were making, or possibly even wondering where Tencent has gone. Obviously, the reason why this scene was cut was likely due to time, and also just because, isn't it a little unnecessary, eh? At the end of the episode, every of the Tugs are gathered to hear the news regarding Sunshine, and to be scolded for jumping to conclusions. After that, Sunshine is then welcomed to the fleet after being repaired. Despite being the final scene of the episode, a version of the scene was indeed filmed at the very beginning of filming, which is what I will refer to as the White Handrails edition. This scene was filmed shortly after Jinxed, where Sunshine was depicted with white handrails on his wheelhouse door. Infamously, pictures of this version of the scene exist from the 1987 Christmas party photos, showcasing a brief blip in time of Tencent and Sunshine wearing the faces of the producers, David Midden and Robert Cardona. I'm sure your and my questions are likely the same. Why did they reshoot it? My guess? They might have changed a detail. In the behind the scenes picture, Top Hat and Hercules are clearly depicted with angry face masks when Sunshine pulls in. It's likely the episode's ending played a little bit differently. Maybe some of the Tugs were still skeptical of Sunshine, and it might have set up future stories regarding their judgment of the Switcher. We'll never know, especially since they scrapped it in favour of them welcoming the Switcher in the final episode. Although, to be fair, it would make sense why they would reshoot it to update a detail or two. I mean, it was one of the first scenes they shot for the episode, and Sunshine clearly suffered a few minor rewrites later in production. Pirate. Now I want to go over Pirate for a section, namely because, well, we don't have to. Pirate, to my knowledge, is the only episode that has no major deleted scene. The entire episode from start to finish is available in a completed state as a 20-minute cut. Therefore, I will not be talking about it any further. So with that being said, let's move on to Traps, shall we? Trapped. Trapped has very little information known on its deleted scenes. For the sake of simplicity, I'll be only describing a few. In the beginning of the episode, we are introduced to the working life of Upriver. As we are introduced, we see Zack and Zip travelling with barges and logs. In the picture book adaptation and shooting schedule, there's a scene of Zack encountering an angry Zorin. Likely what's happening here is Zorin asking about the whereabouts of Zug, before Zack and Zip come out pretty much empty-handed in terms of answers. This enrages Zorin, who then goes off to Mittsville, presumably looking for Zug. This scene was cut from the 15-minute version of the episode, although the line of Zack referencing the scene was kept in the final episode.
Hey Zack, Zorin's going mad waiting for you. Where you been?
Next up is not a deleted scene, but rather an alternate line present in the 1988 work print of the episode, owned by TUGS The Exhibition. After Tencent leaves to go get help, OJ and Big Mac arrive to witness the tramper blocking the way. In the final episode, they say the following.
Zorin. One of Zorin's little schemes. I thought as much. Never mind that. Let's just get out of here.
However, in the work print, they say this instead. Also, by the way, please pardon the garbage audio quality. We have yet to get a properly preserved audio of the scene.
they'll steal more of our freight. First things out to get this clear.
Seemingly due to a scene being deleted from the final 15-minute edition of the episode, which featured a scene of Big Mac and OJ witnessing the railway. This line was altered in the final version to what we know it as today. And lastly, I would like to quickly rapid fire through some scenes only mentioned in the shooting schedule or have very little context known, which are as follows. A scene with Big Mac and OJ with empty barges from the beginning of the episode, possibly a deleted shot from the opening. The aforementioned scene of Big Mac and OJ witnessing the local railway via a rail bridge at the sawmills. And then there's the scene following that of them leaving the sawmills, which we also have a picture of. A scene of Top Hat and Zug alone at the tramper, before Big Mac and OJ arrive. A scene of Zoran re-encountering Zip and Zack with them having empty barges, and finally a scene of Tencent and Little Ditcher heading upriver towards the tramper. A picture from the scene also exists. Regatta. Not unlike Sunshine, Regatta's final 20-minute cut seems to differ greatly from the edition of the episode that they filmed. Again, I will be only covering scenes that don't really require a single sentence to describe them. In the final episode, Tencent approached Zip, Zug and Zoran to tow away their log barges in order to save Grampus the midget submarine. Originally, as per the 4th of July script of the episode, there was supposed to be a scene that took place before Tencent arrived to pick up the logs. It would have had the Zeros make remarks about Lily Lightship about being at Jydrog, before they spot Tencent approaching them. Pictures of them spotting Tencent have surfaced online, with one of them, being a promotional picture of Zip looking shocked, was found on the Kabaya trading card. This scene was likely just cut for time in both edits of the episode. After rescuing Grampus, everyone gets to celebrate by partaking in a parade, leading to all of the tugs to show off their decorated barges. However, there was seemingly more to the scene in the original version of the episode. Allegedly, at one point, Warrior would have messed up during the parade. Unfortunately, no pictures or footage of this moment occurs. However, this scene would have also led to another scene of Warrior then apologizing after ruining the parade. It would have had, as I just said, Warrior apologizing for messing up the parade, before being forgiven by Top Hat, as he claims he had a wonderful day. OJ then would have said to have the tugs follow him to Lucky's yard, which is where the actual ending scene would have played out as normal. Footage of the scene was intertwined with the actual final ending of the episode, and once again, might have been cut due to time. Munitions. Oh man, this episode was so close to being perfect, but there was one picture of a scene from Munitions that never made it into the final episode. In the July 1990 edition of Model Boats magazine, there are various promotional pictures from TUGS. One of them was this one of Tencent, using his snarky face mask. However, if you pay close attention to the background, this picture was taken during the scene of Bluenose yelling at Tencent after he scrapes his barge. However, no point in this scene has Tencent wear this face mask, or even smile for that matter, in either of the 20 or 15 minute cuts of the episode. My guess as to why this even existed at all are likely of two theories I have. One, and is probably the least likely, is that at one point, this wasn't meant for anything, other than promotional uses. Another is that in an early edition of the episode, Tencent might have made a snarky remark back at Bluenose, maybe in an extended version of the scene itself. Either are as unlikely though, as nothing in the final scene indicates that something was cut. However, on the other hand, I doubt they would have taken a specially made promotional picture of Tencent smirking in the middle of allegedly the episode that took the longest to film. Honestly, I just can't make sense of it. It's definitely interesting nonetheless though. Warrior. We finally reached Warrior, as fortunately enough, we have all of its deleted scenes, as fortunately in 2022, footage from a workprint of the episode resurfaced online. However, the audio was not properly preserved, as it was oddly quiet for some reason, so details on these scenes are still a bit fishy. Still though, strap in, this is probably one of the longest parts of the video. The episode begins with a montage of the Tugs pulling down derelict buildings as Captain Star narrates over. However, in the original work print, the scene played out differently. The episode originally opens with Warrior encountering Big Mac in the port, as they discuss what they are going to do that day. Notably, Warrior says he's been up since 3 o'clock in that morning, which is meant to be the explanation why he falls asleep at the end of the episode. And also when this scene, and more importantly this line, got axed for time, this might have influenced the episode's name change to just simply Warrior, as the episode was originally meant to be called Warrior's Longest Day, as per the picture book adaptation. After Warrior leaves Izzy Gomez in the work print, the scene cuts to Tencent, the Coast Guard called the Customs Launch in the work print, and Zip and Zug. They are preparing to tear down an old building. Zip then challenges Tencent to a strength pulling competition. Tencent agrees, and soon he begins to struggle to pull the building down, only to no hope. Only for Zip to come in and pull the building down seemingly flawlessly. What's happening here is that Zip uses Tencent to weaken the building, so when he gives up, he can look strong, and give the Zeros a little bit of a neat brownie point. Honestly, this scene is great, and I'm really disappointed it was removed in the final 15-minute cut, barring a few shots that were repurposed in the new intro.
Were in great demand. Pulling down derelict buildings. Laying foundations with barge loads.
After Warrior leaves Pearl, Sunshine and Little Ditcher, in the 15-minute cut we see a low angle of Warrior towing his rock barge away from him. However, in the 20-minute cut we see Warrior pass by Top Hat and Lord Stinker. Top Hat approaches the trio and complains about Warrior getting the rock contract even though he is clumsy, while Top Hat has been on smaller jobs, i.e. garbage detail. Sunshine tries to make sense of it with Top Hat, only for Top Hat to still retaliate. This scene, albeit with some major differences, can be found in the picture book version of the episode. After Warrior drops off some rocks to the Rock Foundation, the work print showcases a montage of Warrior collecting another rock barge from the port. Notably, a deleted scene from High Tide was used in a sequence, which makes the scene even more interesting. After Big Mac leaves with a heavier than usual load, Zoran and the Z-Stack Harbour Tugs soon start to head off to continue their jobs. Only for Zebedee and Zack to reveal that they need to fill up on water, which makes Zoran very angry. This scene can only be found in the work print. Next up is probably one of the most famous deleted scenes from the show. After Warrior sinks Big Mac's barge, Grampus resurfaces from underwater, warning Big Mac that the loads have been lost and it's coming back up. Then, out of nowhere, the barge comes out of the water and traps Big Mac on top of it, as Grampus watches in horror. This scene can both be found in the work print and picture book adaptation of the episode. And that's basically it. Those are the major deleted scenes from Warrior. Whew, what a doozy. And we're just only halfway through the series already. Let's finally take a look at the next episode at long last. High Tide. The episode begins with a montage showcasing the working harbour life of Big City Port. It then is followed up by a scene of Top Hat roasting Big Mac.
That's something.
Interestingly though, this is not how the episode would have originally opened up, as there was originally a different establishing scene of the Z-Stacks working around the port, with Izzy Gomez being present as well. Footage from this sequence was repurposed in the final 15-minute opening and in Munitions. It then would have followed up with a scene that was completely axed in the 15. Tencent and Big Mac would have been at the coal yard with the presence of Jack the Grappler. In fact, in the surviving footage we have of this scene, if you pay close attention, you can actually see Jack's comically large nose. This scene was removed in the final 15-minute cut, although footage from which was present in Sunshine, though mainly its 20-minute cut, as this shot of Tencent approaching Jack was axed from the 15-minute cut's opening montage. Sometime during the episode, we would have cut to a scene of Top Hat, Frank and Eddie at the railhead. This scene was meant to be a simple banner scene of them, and would have set up the events of Top Hat taking them, alongside Lord Stinker, to the canal. Unfortunately, whatever this scene's legendary dialogue would have been, has been lost to time. Well, minus the railhead script, but that one's not finalised. as this scene was cut in the final 15-minute version of the episode, albeit promotional behind the scene pictures of this scene do in fact exist. After Top Hat saves little Al from the collapsing bridge, the episode sort of wraps up a bit quickly, where there's little time given to conclude the events of the episode. However, originally there was supposed to be a scene where the Tugs would have reacted to the fallen bridge. Top Hat and Zebedee would have stopped nearby at the liner dock, likely reflecting on the events of the episode, as Lord Stinker is chained with little Al. Pictures in a single shot of this scene have been confirmed to still exist. Also at one point it appears 10 Cents and Sunshine must have spotted what's been going on, and likely made remarks about what they thought had happened. A single picture of this scene exists found in the picture book adaptation of the episode. Quarantine. Next up is Quarantine. Now fortunately we do know what was in its 20-minute cut, but much like Trapped, the context is very small, as the only info we have of it was via the shooting schedule of the episode. Originally the episode's star briefing would have been greatly extended, notably featuring Big Mac's presence. A single shot of OJ found in the 20-minute version of Sunshine might have originated from this extended briefing. Next up is one of my favourites. In this scene, Top Hat and Warrior would have been directed to tow in the burnt out Krakatoa. And yes, you heard me right, Krakatoa would have made its return in this episode. This scene was tragically cut from the final 15-minute version of the episode. What a shame. After the Fulton Ferry sank, at one point there was going to be 2 more scenes. One of them would have had Grampus show up before the fire tug. A single picture of this scene was found on the Jinxed, Upriver and Quarantine VHS tape. Also fun fact, it appears the infamous underwater Grampus shot from Warrior's workprint actually originated from the filming of this episode, as the shooting schedule mentions Grampus to be on set for the underwater shots. Knowing Warrior also repurposed footage from this episode, I'd not be surprised if this was actually deleted stock footage from Quarantine. Following these scenes of the Fulton Ferry sinking, Burke and Blair would have passed by on their way to the Star Dock, possibly making a remark about OJ or the Fulton Ferry. Several shots from this scene was repurposed in the final episode's modelled up intro. And lastly is a rapid fire of scenes that were filmed, but little context is known about them. Let's do this. There would have been way more scenes of Big Mac and Warrior being present in the episode, including a few scenes with Zip, which interestingly, Zip does not appear in the final episode, but the shooting schedule confirms he was meant to show up in the episode a few times. There were also meant to be more scenes of Burke and Blair, including one where none of the Star Tugs are present in the background. And lastly, there was the scene of Sunshine talking to the Coast Guard. All were cut in the final 15-minute episode. Ghosts. Similar to the previous episode, we have the shooting schedule for Ghosts, but once again, there is little context known about these scenes, other than what characters were going to be in them. The beginning of the episode after Big Mac is teased by the other Star Tugs would have had a scene of Zoran and Zack teasing him for it as well. This scene is only mentioned in the shooting schedule. After Warrior loses the Shrimpers when being scared by the Ghost Tugs, originally he would have actually backtracked to the Shrimpers, only for them to be beached onto a rock. A picture of this scene was present in the picture book adaptation of the episode. There was also a deleted scene of Davy Jones showing up when Zoran spots Izzy Gomez, which interestingly wasn't actually Davy's only planned appearance in the episode, as originally he was going to show up when OJ starts having his hallucinations of the Ghost Tugs, with even the Schooners planned to make an appearance. Unfortunately, all of Davy Jones' appearances in Ghost were completely cut. Before Top Hat encounters the Ghost Fleet, there was supposed to be more of his fear-mongering in the fog, including him encountering various boats and even a fog boy. A picture of the scene could be found on the cover of the picture book adaptation of the episode. There's also this shot, which famously appears in the 20-minute opening of the series. A blank version, albeit with a time code, can be found in footage of the Warrior workprint. Jinxed. Now onto the episode I'm sure many of you are really excited for me to talk about. Jinxed is very well known for having some very interesting deleted scenes, so with that all being said, let's dive in. In the final episode, 10 Cents and Sunshine were just towing Boomer to Lucky's yard, only for Boomer to start sinking. Originally, this sequence was supposed to be much longer in the 20-minute version of the episode. The scene would have begun showing 10 Cents towing Boomer, before stopping after being alerted by Sunshine. Behind the scene and promotional pictures of this moment have been confirmed to exist. After that, 10 Cents wraps around and we would have originally cut to a shot of the switcher approaching Boomer, before cutting to another deleted shot of Sunshine being confused. According to the treatment plan of the episode, the following lines from 10 Cents and Sunshine were originally swapped.
Boomer, what's so funny? I'm thinking, just what I wanted. What?
These shots easily line up with what was seemingly originally planned. They could be both found in the TUGS sizzle reel. When Mighty Mo arrives to pick up Boomer, originally, as seen in the original prototype opening for the series, showcases that Warrior and Big Mac were supposed to be present, though according to the treatment plan, they likely didn't do much, which makes their presence in the scene very puzzling. Maybe this is why they scrapped these shots? Not for runtime reasons, but maybe because it was unneeded. The audience doesn't need to be shown Big Mac and Warrior being present at the A-frames when the scene is just focusing on 10 Cents, Sunshine, Boomer, and Mighty Mo's interactions. Now, this is a good one. The scene of them taking Boomer to Lucky's yard at night was originally much longer in the 20-minute version. At one point in this scene, 10 Cents would have called back to Sunshine while towing Boomer with the cranes, footage of which can be found in the 20-minute and sizzle reel intros. As they pull in Boomer, at one point the scene would have cut to a panning shot of them passing Zip and Zud, where they would have originally made a rude remark about Boomer. Footage from this moment can be found in the TUGS sizzle reel, and even some promotional pictures of the scene also exist as well. When they crash into Lucky's yard, although sadly no pictures or footage of this is currently known to exist, Boomer would have inexplicably been lifted back into the water by Mighty Mo. We then would have faded to the next scene, which takes place in the morning, showcasing the wreckage of the disaster, before the Z-Stacks snatch up the day's work. Footage and pictures from the sequence can both be found online. A few days later, Captain Star would do a briefing for the Star Tugs, who comments how there's nothing wrong with Boomer and that he's been lent to Captain Zero. A picture and a single shot of this sequence was found. The footage comes from the 15-minute cut intro for TUGS. After the famous barge explosion scene and after Boomer leaves the Z-Stacks, was a scene that doesn't appear to have any pictures or footage that still exists. Boomer would have worked with Big Mickey at one point, and where 10 Cents and Sunshine would have passed him. Only for Big Mickey's hawser to snap, causing Boomer's barge to sink. This scene is mentioned in the Jinxed treatment plan script. After Boomer deals with the ironworks, we now move on to TUGS' most famous deleted scene, affectionately known as the Gomez incident. The San Juan Banana Company takes on Boomer, who tows Izzy Gomez into port. As he does, 10 Cents whistles at both of them, only for Boomer's engine to jam 180 degrees, which then he rams into Izzy Gomez, causing him to send him flying into a pier, which makes it explode. Various behind-the-scene pictures and footage of the scene can be found online. When 10 Cents and Sunshine go to see Boomer out in the estuary, where mentioned in the treatment plan, Boomer is made as a standby foghorn. While this detail was removed in the final 15-minute version, in the footage, Boomer is still depicted with his foghorn in the final edits. And once again, we don't have any visual evidence for this scene. But a scene would have taken place after this one of various vessels crashing at night, as Boomer's absence meant they couldn't see it at all. And yet another scene we don't have any pictures of. At one point there was a scene where the fire tug comes out of port to collect Boomer, as 10 Cents and Sunshine find out that Boomer was hurt when towing out the schooner. They try to steam out of the port with the fire tug, only to be stopped by Big Mac and OJ. And finally, the sequence of the tugs heading to Dun tugging was extended, with the trio of 10 Cents, Boomer and Sunshine passing by various tugs along the way. Wow, Jinx was another doozy. That was a lot to take in. And we're not even done with episodes that are a doozy to cover. In fact, here it is now. High winds. And here is another episode that has an ocean of deleted scenes. Much like Jinxed, many of the deleted scenes of High Winds are well known, thanks to the 20-minute version of the episode being adapted nearly perfectly in picture book form. In fact also, we even have a timing sheet for the episode, which further helps out with what was added/cut. With that all being said, let's finally discuss high winds. After Tencent saved Zebedee's barge from drifting away, originally there was going to be a Zero briefing scene in the episode. Captain Zero would have given out orders for the day, and also warns about Johnny Cuba, before all of the Z-Stacks all go out to do their salvage work. Footage from this scene was found in the 15-minute cut opening of the series. Shortly after this scene, a scene of Tencent, Sunshine and Lily Lightship took place. The switches were dropping off fuel to Lily, before she notices a peculiar figure out in the ocean. This is Johnny Cuba, but unknowns to Sunshine, he goes out to see the tramper, much to Lily's fear. Sunshine approaches the tramper and offers him a tow, only for him to be told to scram. Sunshine steams away, only to be spotted by the Coast Guard. Lots of footage from this scene was repurposed in Regatta, and in fact, there's even a shot exclusive to the 15-minute cut of the episode. A few behind the scenes pictures of this moment of Sunshine encountering Johnny Cuba also exist. Not too long later, the Coast Guard catches up with Tencent and Sunshine, who asks a few questions regarding Johnny Cuba. He then states who he's after, with the switches coming up with empty-handed answers. This leads to the Coast Guard exiting out of port to watch out for Johnny Cuba. OJ then steams by and asks the switches to go collect Scuttlebutt Pete. Various pictures of this scene are known to exist, and all the scenes I just mentioned so far are featured in the picture book adaptation. After the Coast Guard gets brutally knocked out by Johnny Cuba, the episode would have cut to Warrior towing in Sally's seaplane. She had to be grounded that day due to the high winds. Sally says to Warrior that she had spotted Hercules towing in the Princess Alice. She then also remarks that it appears damaged. Warrior, who is shocked to find out, sets off to go tell the other Star Tugs. The feature is featured within the picture book adaptation of the episode, including a promotional picture as well. After Zebedee saves the day by jumping in to help arrest Johnny Cuba, originally he would have returned back to the Zero Pier, where Captain Zero scolds the entire fleet for not getting a single salvage work in. He also scolds Zebedee for helping out the Star Tugs. This is where the Coast Guard comes in, who claims that Zebedee encountered Johnny Cuba. This fires up Zero, who claims he had nothing to do with anything with Tramper, and then Zero starts to scold Zebedee even further. Coast Guard, however, further confirms that Cuba was arrested by both Zebedee and Hercules, and therefore he believes that Zebedee had nothing else to do with Johnny Cuba and only came by to thank the Zero hero. In a moment of awkwardness, Captain Zero changes his tone and said he was about to say what a credit Zebedee is to his fleet. Man, TUGS is filled with gems like this. A few pictures of various points of the scene are available online. Phew! That was a lot! High Winds is a pretty jam-packed episode, so I am glad I was able to tell you all about the deleted content of the episode. Now, let's move on to Upriver. In the beginning of the episode, we are shown various points of Upriver itself, showcasing that the worst of winter is over, and also establishes the big job Sunshine and Big Mac have, which is pushing in logs. However, the intro was originally much longer in the original cut of the episode. A behind the scenes picture for the episode reveals that the episode would have originally opened up with Sunshine having a chat with Billy Shoepack. This scene would have definitely helped set up Billy's involvement in the episode overall, and it's kind of a massive shame this scene was cut entirely in the 15-minute cut. After this scene, OJ and Top Hat would have had some sort of scene at Uptown. This is mentioned only in the shooting schedule of the episode. And then also after this scene that didn't make the cut was yet another one that showcases that Warrior would have been teased by none other than the Z-Stacks themselves, who would have teased Warrior, likely breaking something with Little Ditcher. In the final cut, they are nowhere to be found in the episode, which makes it TUGS' only episode that does not have any of the Z-Stacks included. However, pictures, strangely coming from the Bigg Freeze picture book adaptation of all places, and are mentioned in the shooting schedule, showcases what this scene could have been. Also revealed in the shooting schedule was that Zack and Zip were also planned to be present. Kind of a shame that this scene was completely cut, I will have to admit. Next will be yet another rapid fire through various scenes that are only mentioned in the shooting schedule, that was cut from the final episode. Are we ready? Let's go! There was going to be a scene of Warrior and Little Ditcher at Uptown. If I had to guess, this scene is likely Little Ditcher cheering up the Harbour Tug from the teasing from the Z-Stacks from earlier. Sometime after, also taking place in Uptown, was another deleted scene of Top Hat with Warrior and Little Ditcher, likely having Top Hat make a rude remark about Warrior or possibly doubting him, which would have set up the ending of the episode. And lastly, for scenes only confirmed via the shooting schedule, various more of the chase scenes with Big Mac, Tencents and Sunshine were indeed planned to happen, all of which were cut from the episode. There is also one more scene that was removed, an extended scene of the aftermath of the warehouse's destruction, at one point showcasing a happy close-up of Sunshine. This scene was shortened for time in the 15-minute version. And now for our final episode. Bigg Freeze. We finally come to the final episode. Please note that, allegedly, Bigg Freeze may have never had filming finished for it, at least for its 20-minute cut, as it also likely coexisted around the time of the decision to make the final 15-minute edits. However, that didn't mean Bigg Freeze had content cut from it. No, it still has its fair share of deleted content. At one point in the episode, there was a scene of Top Hat and Big Mac. The scene is present in the picture book adaptation, and has Top Hat complaining about pulling barges. A single photo also accompanies this scene. Next after, Warrior collects a newly found garbage barge. At one point, Zip and Zug would have teased Warrior shortly after leaving the garbage yard. No photos of this scene are confirmed to exist, but it is present in the picture book adaptation. Once again, I will have to clarify, there are these photos from earlier in the book, but I can confirm these are actually from the deleted Z-Stack scene from Upriver. Note the presence of Little Ditcher in these photos, which as brought up earlier, plays a role in Upriver and doesn't appear in Bigg Freeze. Next is a scene with little known context, as even in the picture book version, it is actually placed with a scene of Zoran teasing Tencents and Sunshine about the fuel for Vienna. From what we can see, this scene took place before Tencents and Sunshine left for Vienna, where Zoran would have greeted him, possibly bragging about them not getting fuel for Vienna. The fact details on this scene are very sketchy does make sense, given Bigg Freeze's seemingly troubled production, possible TUGS mystery video idea in the future. But still, it is oh so interesting. And finally, the last deleted scene for this video. When Zoran calls Zip and Zug out for trapping Tencents and Sunshine behind a fire barge, they go back and try and fix it back where they found it. In a photo bizarrely found on the back of the finished VHS for Sunshine and Pirate, showcases the picture of Zero on the Upriver set at night. My guess, as well as many others, is that this scene would have had Zero reporting the misuse of the fire barge at the fire tug, which helps explain why the fire tug says this in the final episode.
That's not what I heard. You're coming with me?
This also explains why the present day condition of the Sea Rogue / Blue Nose prop is in the form of Sea Rogue, as they likely had to turn the prop back into Sea Rogue especially for the scene, similar to how the Old Man prop was turned back into Boomer for Upriver. Until we know the complete context of this scene, and possibly more of TUGS' deleted scenes for that matter, it will forever remain a mystery of what the context was for these scenes. What could have been? Phew! 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 That was a lot to go through, and boy oh boy was it ever so interesting. From the scrapped opening from Sunshine, to Underwater Grampus, to Sea Rogue and Bigg Freeze. Almost every TUGS episode always has something to discover. I thank you all so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and like the video to let me know that you've enjoyed it. Please also let me know in the comment section what was your favourite TUGS deleted scene. Anyhow, this is SonicWalle and have a great day. Bye bye!